I'm going to go ahead and call to order the common council meeting for April 6, 2015. And please stand for invocation. Bob, come forward, please.
Gracious God, we thank you for this day. We thank you, God, how you continue to bless us and keep us. God, we thank you for another day that we haven't seen before. We ask you to continue to bless this council. Bless them, our leaders. Give them the wisdom and the knowledge they need to continue to help our community grow. We ask you to bless all of our staff, all of our persons who work for our community to make it a better place. We ask you to continue to bless our first responders. Continue to watch over them and keep them. And God, we ask you also to bless our community and the persons who are present today. Each one of us have concerns. We have things going on in our lives, and we need you all the time. So we thank you, God, for letting us see another Easter, another Resurrection Sunday. And God, we thank you for you dying for our sins and rising again so we can have a chance for mercy and also grace. So God, we thank you and we adore you and we put no one before you. God, continue to bless the persons who are working with the scouts. We thank you, God, for people who have time. Don't consider it robbery to have time to work with our kids, to help them to grow to be what you would have them to be. We ask it all in the name of Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bob. We got a special treat with us tonight. We have Cub Scout Pack 4043 from New Chapel Methodist Church. If y'all please come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, we greatly appreciate it.
You want to use the microphone or no?
Come on up. Come on up here and we'll face it.
Right here, but yes.
Everybody come on up on the podium. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for doing this. And we are ready when you all are ready.
Thank you for allowing me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. She wants to take a picture of us.
What troop is it?
We are Pack 4043.
Pack 44?
Pack 4043.
I'll put it on Facebook. Under the council. Yeah.
Where Utica?
Yeah.
Stand on Richard's shoulders. He'll be all right.
Stand on the chair. All right, thank you.
See you Saturday.
As they leave here. Cub Scouts.
Roll call, please.
Councilperson Smith.
I just saw it.
Councilperson Sestavny.
Here.
Councilperson Wadsworth.
Present.
Councilperson Sellers.
Here.
Councilperson Webb.
Here.
Council President Gill.
Here.
Councilperson Julius.
Here.
Councilperson Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Let the record reflect all councilpersons are present.
Thank you. We've got minutes to be approved from our regular proceedings for March 16th, 2015.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Got approval of the agenda.
There are no changes. Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second.
Was there a change?
Yes. Isn't there a change? Aren't you moving Mr. Corbin up?
Well, I didn't see,
Mr. Corbin?
oh,
Oh, he's in the back.
well, I think Clark is going to be speaking now. We were going to move him up to Clark's. Clark, you were going to stay on the agenda, correct? We can move him up, but we would,
Call the question.
I got a motion and a second, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Claims to be approved.
Requesting approval of claims totaling $1,249,420.14 as presented.
If there are no questions, I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the claims for $1,249,420.14. All those in favor signify by saying
I'm
aye.
gonna abstain.
Got one abstention. All those opposed?
So then when I-
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Report of the clerk.
None at this time.
We have no unfinished business, so we will move on to new business. Chief Kenny Kavanaugh.
Can you use that one?
And I believe the training dates have changed, right, that we have in our information?
Yes, they are. Good evening. I'd like to say that I'm coming before you with two trainings. The first is going to be two officers are going to be attending ILEA, the Firearms Academy. The date that you see, June the 1st through the 5th, has been changed. They're going to be going from July the 27th through the 31st. The course expense is $1,300 for enrollment. That is a little high due to the fact, though, it's the ammunition cost of the rounds they're going to be producing during the week to go through the course. The travel expense is $1,000.
July when, Chief?
July 27th through the 31st.
You have that in your budget, don't you, Kenny?
Yes, we do.
Motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. The second is going to be an additional training with two narcotics detectives. They're going to be going to Indiana Drug Enforcement Academy. It's going to be a movement surveillance school. The officers will partake about 500 miles that week in training. I can personally say that the course expense, the registration fee cost is $100 for what you get out of the course. That's what you see with the dollars that are in asset forfeiture. I personally participated in the training about 8 to 9 years ago, and the dividends of what you get returned for the asset forfeiture training, that's what's produced back in the year of 2010. The travel cost on that is $700. Registration cost is $100. I have that within the budget.
Motion approved.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Yes, I'm going to move on to the police vehicle request. If you could look at the spreadsheet. We have, prior to taking over the May 16th, the previous administrators had purchased within the LOIT funds the 9 vehicles that were already, you did the appropriation for. That was going to be 6 Chevy Caprices and 3 Tahoes. The Tahoes, as I found, are 2-wheel drive. We're in the process about to put those out. Coming off being a shift commander, I can say that what you're looking at as far as those vehicles cannot create a furtherance when we have inclement weather within the fleet. We drop down to about 6 vehicles. Out of those 6 vehicles, none are actually geared and ready as far as a police package vehicle that we're using. This is going to be able to give us the distance. If we have 9 officers, 10 officers out on those days, on second shift being the highest, I'm able to deploy as a normal patrol day. This is what this is allowing us to do by upgrading the vehicles. I've worked with Mr. Vissing's assistant, Council President Gill. The Finance Department has assisted us. We found a fleet buyer in the state of Florida of police vehicles. We were able to do a transaction of $84,750 on those vehicles, and we've brought that back into the city in the general fund. I'm asking for an appropriation, again, to have those funds to come back out. I'm working with Coyle Chevrolet as a dealership, and within our budget, as you see on the spreadsheet, we're prepared to move forward and complete the transaction, having the $84,750 to come back. I can work within the budget and complete that transaction, everything there. The contingent plan of what I have, and I did pick up prior to coming to the meeting within the hour, the 22.5 it looked like was going to be able to not utilize, and that would change the sum. Mr. Vissing advised me that employee that he was looking at did notify him this afternoon he is not going to come to the city and take employment. So the reason I put the 22.5 in there, it was looking as the email that I did send out to you last night. He was prepared to come within the next 10 days. He is not going to take the employment with us. So Mr. Vissing has opened that search up. The 22.5 that you see in there, that is going to be contingent, and I'm going to need that. That's the worst case scenario, to pay $3,000 per vehicle. Those K-9 vehicles may be more because the cages are going to need to be installed. So I've already implemented that as a thought. I was feeling good. Like I said, an hour come in, I could tell you that the 22.5 would probably come out. Now I'm going to say I'm going to need that. So that is right now the figure you see. That is the worst case scenario, and it could go more.
Do you know the reasoning why they didn't get in the Tahoes? I can see the two-wheel drive versus four-wheel drive, but why didn't they get the heavy-duty, the package?
We had the package, but we did not at the time they were purchased. You were looking at about a $4,000 difference. The decision was made, and that's beyond myself, officer.
Well, I just wondering what the thought was.
So I've spoken with you, and I notified the mayor of actually what I was going to do, and council president, and we all agreed we all wanted to move forward, and that's why I've included everyone. I think that's the right thing to do. While I'm here speaking, I am going to reevaluate. We're going to look in with that fleet buyer has an interest. I'm going to look at the 3 other Caprices for the same if he has an interest. I'm going to work within my budget, and I have to look to see what the cost would be versus the install on the four-wheel drive Tahoe again, but I would like to take 3 of those and do the same thing again, all working within my budget.
So the action you're asking of us is to appropriate the $84,750 back into...
Yes.
Okay.
That came in this week off of the sale of the 3 two-wheel drive Tahoes.
So then we would need to make a motion to allow Amy to advertise for that additional appropriation. Okay, we can add that. Okay.
Chief, I have a question.
Yes.
The 3 Tahoes that we're selling, did we use those at all?
No, they've been there at the department for approximately 2 months, and they've been there at that present time. So we didn't put any miles on them. They brought them from the dealership, and we were still here at the time. They took them to the new facility. They've been parked there. I think they moved around the lot some, and that was it.
Have we outfitted those?
No, there was nothing that was done in that period of time. They've just been parked.
And do you know what we paid for, how much did we lose on those? Do you know?
Yes, it was $2,250 is what we did actually. We did lose.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to, we need to do it for advertising first.
It's going to come up later.
So if we're going to add it later, Scott, do we technically still need to make a motion now?
Well, they can either do it now or wait till.
Just wait till it comes
Make
up.
a motion. Make a motion and Amy add to the additional appropriation.
Just wait.
Okay. They want to wait a couple minutes,
Okay,
so you can't leave.
I'm completed.
Annie, I applaud you. Your communication with myself has been awesome. Also with your ACs. I learned my new term, your assistant chiefs. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. And any questions at all during the course of time? We've had the issue, Councilperson Smith, I want to say thank you. I was unaware fully with that claim. If there's anything that you see any point in time, don't hesitate. Please send an email, and that's going to get he and I to do some digging and find out a little bit more what's going to go on. There's a few questions that we need to answer, and I will be back to see you with some other information. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, Clark Miles, update on paving.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to give you an update. I didn't have any sheet or anything for you because I'm waiting on my figures officially to come back in. Should be in tomorrow. And I think Wednesday at Board Public Works, we're going to try to get my paving updates out for bids on the roads in the city. he told me a figure this evening after Councilman President Gill, I talked to her and I didn't know what I was going to do at the time. And I looked at times and all, and looked to see what I had, and then he called me and he gave me some updates on what the figures probably be on my paving this year. And for the roads I had, last year I spent close to $800,000. This year, I didn't get a chance to finish some roads from last year. And plus what I got this year and with the weather the last 2 years, look like it's probably going to be about $1.5 million I'm going to spend. And I got money that's going to be coming in. I'm waiting on make sure my updated final figures from my added money, my local roads and streets and motor vehicle. And I should be getting close to $1 million off of that, at least. And so my big thing was that I was wanting to make sure you all knew that I was wanting to at least inform you all and update you all that I was going to probably looking until I get my regular figures and check back through, probably looking for maybe another 500,000 that I'd hold on to, and just in case I need that for my roads. I may not need it all when I get my final figures on what I got. But I got...
Clark, can we clarify something here for a second?
Mm-hmm.
I met with Clark
Mm-hmm.
because, all the potholes and all that. I just set up a meeting with
Right.
him, and we went over his budget, which I got a copy of it here.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Clark, where are we at? Because I know we didn't get all, remember we appropriated additional
Mm-hmm.
last year we had a list, which he said he didn't get, which you still have money for that.
Well, I'm
You didn't pay
getting
them
my
all.
final figures on all that. I'm trying to get all that together.
And then this year's budget, he
Mhm.
has over $1 million sitting in his
Mhm.
budget right now for asphalting, road repairs, and
Yeah,
potholes.
yeah.
So he's,
So all I want to do, just in case something happened, I'm just waiting on to get the figures back from them. I'm going to sit down and we'll make you all aware and give you all update on what I got here with my money for my roads and for my paving and everything. And with the last 2 winters we had, we've got some roads that's pretty bad shape. We've done a whole lot of patching, cold patch, asphalt, and everything else. So hopefully we can get things worked out within a decent and good budget. But I want to make sure you all updated on what I got, and if something happens where I need additional funding, I want to make sure you all know that I will be getting back to you all. And President Gail has been real good, and as far as me contacting her with meeting and doing what we had to do to make sure we keep updated on everything.
because after we did meet, what he showed me at the time with what he has sitting in his budget,
Mhm.
he's in good standing. But I did tell him that I always keep in constant contact with him.
Mhm.
They have a system to where they evaluate. He might right now think something just needs a repair, and it might need a total,
Mhm. Right.
asphalting on depth through as the year progresses.
Right.
So I told him just come back to us and request that. But right now, I mean, he's
With local
good.
roads and streets, he's got about $2 million.
Exactly.
So that's, yeah, he's.
Should be
I
moving
know
up
there's
to
been
the-
complaints about a lot of potholes, but I do believe a lot of
Mhm.
that is because
Patch a lot of potholes.
Mhm.
their first priority is getting the trash picked up.
Right.
Which they do an excellent job. I know that last Friday when I stopped in, they were down 10
Mhm.
people that were
Mhm.
out either sick or FMLA
Right.
or whatever,
Mhm.
so,
Yeah, so it keeps us hopping, it keeps us busy, but,
yeah, so
No.
that's why he's a little bit behind in the pothole filling.
yeah. So I got people out every day trying to do, but I'm ready to start on paving here pretty soon, and my bidding process, hopefully this week, we can start getting paperwork out on that. So we'll go from there, but I just want to make sure you all knew what the update was, and make sure you all knew, and like I said, I met with Council President Gill, that, just in case something happens on some of these roads we tear up, I'm looking at Holman's Lane and some of those roads like that, if something happens where I need additional funding, I just want to make sure you all knew that I will be coming back to you if something happens.
Thank you, Clark.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
All right,
Thank you all for all your hard work.
okay, thank you.
Kim, an ordinance amending 2014 OR 54, fixing the salaries of appointed officers, employees, and departments of the city.
Anything addition to what we had in the workshop?
Oh, yeah, we just decided to hire about 4 more people. No,
Good.
I'm good. No,
In
no,
what
I'm good.
department?
No, I don't want. whatever you want.
Vicki, what's our ordinance?
No.
17.
17.
Motion to approve 2015 OR 17 on the first reading.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second to pass 2015 OR 17 on the first reading. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries, and thank you, Tim.
One question, if the drainage decides to add this too,
We'll have to come
just
back.
go ahead. Okay, got it. Thanks.
Mr. Lewis, certificate of override of mayor's veto of ordinance 2015 OR 13.
Yes, what's presented for your consideration, certificate of override of mayor's veto of ordinance 2015 OR 13. This is the first regular meeting since the date of the mayor's veto. So this would be the meeting if it's the desire of the council to override the veto.
And just for clarification, can you say what was the veto for?
Which ordinance?
No, I mean,
No,
the
his reasoning.
What he says in his statement?
Well, here, I'll just say what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, I can't speak for the mayor. I don't know why
Yeah,
he...
not the press release, but what the action he took was to veto a creation of a fund.
Yeah.
There's no no spending of money. There's no facility being considered for purchase or for construction. This is just the creation of a fund for future use.
Yes. I mean, this technical ordinance that was vetoed, the ordinance itself is not putting money into that fund. It's just creating a fund as a placeholder to put money in at a later time. But it doesn't create any spending at this point in time. It doesn't create any transfer of money into the fund at this point in time.
Right. And the mayor's reasonings for vetoing it was because he said we were going to be building an indoor athletic facility, which we've made clear at previous meetings that's not what was happening. And also, he says that additional police and firefighters, which we've taken care of, I believe, last year.
In the budget.
In the budget. And then the recent winter was especially harsh on our city streets that requires more paving, and we've just said we have $2 million in the budget for that, so we're good. So I would like to make a motion that we override the mayor's veto.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to override the mayor's veto. Any further discussion?
Just roll call.
I think it would be useful to clarify that the non-reverting fund is actually a vehicle recommended by the State Board of Accountants.
That's correct.
Is that the right terminology?
Yes, that is correct.
And the purpose of it is so that any monies that are left over at the end of, say, an accounting period or at the end of the year would not revert back to outside of the control or possession of the city of Jeffersonville.
That's correct.
I think that's very important for everyone to understand.
Very common. It's been done for multiple projects through the years for any municipality.
Furthermore, there's no dollar amount attached to the creation of the fund.
No.
There are no monies being moved.
Correct.
Right.
Roll call, please.
Councilperson Smith.
Yes.
Councilperson Zastavny.
Yes.
Councilperson Wadsworth.
Yes.
Councilperson Sellers.
Yes.
Councilperson Webb.
Yes.
Council President Gill.
Yes.
Councilperson Julius.
Yes.
Councilperson Owen.
Yes.
Councilperson Samuel.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Scott. You got Les Merkley. An ordinance amending ordinance 1012 OR2, which amends ordinance 2011 OR41, which amends ordinance 2009 OR33, which amends 2009, well, to establish a Department of Petty Cash.
This is an ordinance that comes upon the recommendation of the police chief. And there's only one change in the ordinance. That is under the police department for purposes of petty cash. The new amount would be $50. Previously, it was for $25.
What's this one?
18. It's under, if you go on to the second page, it says police And there's 3, administrative assistant 1, 2, and 3, it's $50. Like you said, they're just increasing the amount.
Page 2 of the ordinance,
Yes.
under police, you see administrative assistant 1, it's listed 3 times. Next to his dollar amount of $50. Previously, that dollar amount was $25. The proposed increase is to
That's so they can
$50.
make, like, for pay for films.
Petty cash,
People
yes.
come in and.
Make a motion to approve 2015 OR 18 on the first reading.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion, a second, pass 2015 OR 18 on first reading. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Les. Amy Deering, an ordinance transferring certain funds within the same department.
Chief Kavanaugh has asked to speak on this ordinance, if that's okay.
Thank you for allowing me to come back before you. This issue here, kind of getting wind, this is something that was, again, prior to me taking place. The issue projecting the expenses on the new police department, that utility bill, it's running monthly. It's about $5,000 a month, that's what I'm being told. Projected of what was actually there, I think it was approximately $14,000 was budgeted for that. So $12,000, excuse me, was budgeted for that. In the avenue of looking, I believe the time that previously that it was already the decision going to be made to take $60,000 out of overtime. What we're looking at doing with the Big Four Bridge, I'm utilizing baseline services now, but we're trying to get the coverage down there. If I transfer and use this now, I'm going to actually be turning around and coming back to try to figure out what to do with the overtime that's going to be missed, in essence, on that. So I'm just kind of asking for some ideas of explore some options, exactly what we can do here with this, where we are right now with this utility bill. We've brought Matt Dyer in, some of the programming and configurations. We've already started to work on that, where sometimes where we know that the officers aren't going to be in the building, where administrative staff is out, and we've already changed the programming on that to be conducive to go more efficient. We're also exploring other ways and working with the Stopanol group as far as with the some of the lighting that is staying on and trying to conserve as much as possible. So we're digging into this to make a reduction and to try to make some type of impact. I'm just looking at this, again, this is one of the things that I'm catching coming up actually now. It was mentioned before and I've not dug all the way into it. So brought to my attention here just now. I just want to say that, if we transfer that out, I just want to have an understanding there's going to be a higher probability I'll be coming back to ask for that in conjunction with what we're going to be trying to do in the downtown area with the Big Four Bridge. That's pretty significantly what we're looking at with the overtime, where it's going to go, and we're making some adjustments. I do have Major Lynch. I don't want to jump ahead on that subject, but I'm looking at also ways, and I am for the first time, the department is, I'm utilizing baseline services down there to try to offset and accommodate this too. So we're already working at some of these issues with dollars where they're being spent and trying to target some of this to slow some of this down, in essence.
When you say baseline services, you mean just
Baseline services of officers that are on duty at peak times where I'm not using some of the officers in levels on patrol where I know it's going to be some downtime. We're doing reports. I'm taking an officer and I'm structuring them down at the Big Four Bridge. I'm doing about two at a time. So what we've been doing mixed in with the off-duty security and with us, we're doing 12 hours at a time. So I'm getting officers down there on patrol that are on duty for a period of time. They're taking off and taking some cars, but I'm assigning someone to be down there in that area. So we're just doing some planning, some things strategic just to move around, because I know we cannot do this all with overtime dollars being reasonable. So just trying to work within our means.
Hey, Chief, I think one thing about the building, that when we had no idea what the utilities were going to cost. So I think in a conversation was, once we get into it, the first year, I think you'll have an idea. And I believe probably when you start doing your budget next year, that will have, your utility costs will have to be addressed. I think we know that.
Right.
Because we nobody had a clue. So, I mean, I think some of that, it's an unknown, and we just put money there
Right.
to get in it and get comfortable and get started, knowing that at some point there's going to be changes and adjustments. We didn't have any idea, and neither did the past administrator.
Right.
Nobody did. So I think we knew that was coming. It's
Okay.
just we didn't know what the number was going to be. But after you're in for 6 months,
Right.
you are going to have a little bit better handle on it, so I think that's to be expected.
And we're going to do some things, like I said, we already brought Matt in with the programming on there. We're trying to run some things down and just get some things under control, make some changes.
Well, Chief, the other thing, when we were negotiating the contract and we were talking about overtime dollars, and I know a few of us spent many hours on this, I mean, that's something that we really got to be on top of.
Right.
Is overtime hours. And they get out of hand so quick. And the other thing that I would suggest to you is don't come in when you're out.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, that really puts us behind the 8 ball. You know, come in a month before or 6 weeks before and kind of give us a heads up and tell us where we're heading. And,
Okay.
And then that kind of gives us a gauge on next year's budget.
Okay. Will do.
Remember too, we need 2 meetings and we have to advertise for any additional appropriation. So if you wait till the last.
And that's happened
Okay.
before. So, and I'm not just saying in the police, but
Right.
it happens when they run out of overtime, and it's a problem. So.
All right.
Make a motion to approve 2015 OR 19 on the first reading.
Second.
Okay, I got a first and second for 2015 OR 19. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Amy Deering, an ordinance for additional appropriation, and we will have a public hearing held on the 20th of April.
Yes, this is an additional up for the first reading. I'll go down through each line item if you would like.
Yeah, thank you.
The first 2 items are just for accounting purposes. We're moving a vehicle that's already been purchased underneath the motor vehicle department from the council. The next item was favorably approved at the Finance Committee meeting. It's a 2014 invoice that was received this year for the Safety Department vehicle. And then all the additional items are for the new Green Team employees that were approved, I think, in the salary ordinance.
Is that what we're going to call them?
We're going to have to come up with a name. We'll catch you with a name.
I like the green.
I like green.
That's appropriate.
There you go.
Have a green outfit on and.
This is the ordinance I think we wanted to.
We want to add.
Yes, we need to add
Oh, the police.
For the
the appropriate, yes.
I have the GL number. It's
Go ahead.
430-006-445.003.
And what was the exact amount again?
$84,750, and that's under Lowit vehicles.
Make a motion to approve 2015 OR 20 on the first reading with the change.
Second.
Okay, got a first and a second to pass on the first reading 2015 OR 20. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Amy. Council be aware that this will be a public hearing, and it's Les Merkley for the Plan Commission. Actually, I think it's going to be Shane for the sign ordinance. And now start smiling now.
Laptop. There's one. And the laptop. Right there. Good evening.
Howdy.
All right, I'll try to be quick with this, without not giving you some substance to think about. But in the 3 years that I've been here, I've been hearing a lot about the need for certain elements of our development codes to be updated, and one of them that has been talked about quite a bit has been signage. And also, as someone who enforces the sign code, it's not very much fun. I've got a lot of different signs out there, and also feel that consistency of signage throughout a community has a really big impact on its overall appearance and its ability to attract investment and just the overall feel. So we've looked at a variety of different communities, as well as some other entities nearby here, such as River Ridge, and looked at what their sign standards were, and then we've taken our sign standards and updated those. We haven't completely rewritten them, but we've expanded on some things, and we've made some adjustments to our existing code to basically create consistency throughout the entire city. So we're adding definitions and clarifying some that we have in there that we know people find confusing. We're attempting to address LEDs more clearly. We've had a moratorium on them for over a year, and we know that people want those, and because our ordinance doesn't have a clear set of guidelines on how to manage them, we wanted to take care of that, actually make them available for people to install. We also wanted to adjust the dimensional standards and political signs, so we'll touch on those a little bit too. I won't go through all the definitions. We had about 20. One that I think is pretty important is the electronic variable message sign. Formerly, we've all referred to them as LEDs, but this is the industry standard, and so that's what everybody's calling them now. So EVMS is the acronym that we'll be using. Another important one I'm just going to throw in here is the attention-seeking sign, and that would be any sort of flag, streamer, pennant, costume character, inflatable, static balloons, continuous string of pennants, flags, or fringe or similar devices. This is really trying to address those handful of commercial lots that we have throughout the city that tend to look sort of carnival-like, with just a ton of things going on all the time. So we're going to try to cut down on a lot of that visual clutter. With the LED signs, we do want to permit them, but only as ground signs. We still don't want them to flash or move, or scroll, or fade in and out. We want to hold the message for at least 1 hour. And we came up with that number. We had a workshop with several of the council people as well as the planning commission people, and we debated, what would be the proper time. Some people wanted 24 hours. Some people wanted a few minutes. We came to the conclusion that 1 hour would be, if we just go with that and stick with it, that would be the time that we'd stick with. We want all new signs to have automatic dimmer controls. So when they're really bright during the day and it gets dark, that they don't stay that bright and cause a glare on the road. They will automatically dim.
James, is that common or not?
Yes, we actually met with a LED sign company that brought a portable LED out of a pickup that actually raised out of the back of the truck bed, and we sat and played with the measurements of the brightness and talked about all the different capabilities that they have. So they all have computer systems where you can set the time to hold the message, and you can install dimmers and all of them. We just would require them so that we don't run into issues down the road.
This is just on LED signs.
Just on LED signs, or EVMS signs. LEDs. What else did we want to do? We also wanted to restrict them 600 feet from residential zoning districts and downtown commercial unless they're screened so you can't see them. And we don't want them to be within 150 feet of a signalized intersection without going through the variance process, which will allow us to address each one on a case-by-case basis to make sure that they're not trying to put an LED sign right up next to traffic signals. Again, we talked about the dimmer. Prohibited districts would be all residential, downtown commercial, and neighborhood commercial. So they would be allowed in our major commercial corridors. Again, 600 feet. Here would be an example of the distance from the center of an intersection. So any sign that wanted to be within 150 feet of the center of that intersection would be required to come in for variance. At that point in time, we'd be able to have a lot more control over where exactly it was placed. And finally, we want there to be an exterior shutoff. So if we're unable to convince people to manage their sign and keep it from scrolling and flashing and blinking, we don't spend an enormous amount of time trying to do enforcement on it. We can go and actually shut it down ourselves And then we get into adjusting the standards. This is a lot of information here, but again, we looked at a lot of different communities and looked at all their zoning classifications and what they were doing. The main, let's see if my mouse will go. The main area that's going to be affected would be the highway commercial, the C1 and the C2, and typically would fall in the monument signs here or the LED signs here. Currently, we allow those signs, a typical monument sign, to be 20 feet in height and 80 square feet per side. And we're dropping that to 8 feet in height and 48 square feet per side. That is consistent with River Ridge and all of their huge industrial developments out there. So Amazon fits into that category. We previously have been allowing signs larger than Amazon would put on their site for a fast food restaurant and an outlot. So it really is out of scale. And we'll get into some of the graphics here. It makes it a lot easier to digest. So for a subdivision sign, we're going to keep it at the same height, but reduce the square footage, so it'll get a little bit skinnier. But there's a scale as it compared to about a 6-foot person. So on the left is current, on the right is what we're proposing. This is the example of our typical commercial that we're talking about in our commercial corridors for highway commercial, our C1 and our C2. So this is Veterans Parkway. This is 10th Street all the way down. This is the new interchange that would be leading into River Ridge. We're getting away from the 20-foot high signs and dropping them down to 8 feet. And again, that's consistent with River Ridge. You would be allowed to do an electronic sign. If you do, then you actually cut that height in half, so it'll be a 4-foot sign. So we are allowing them, but the trade-off is you actually make the sign a little bit shorter. With the neighborhood commercial and downtown commercial, we're actually reducing those signs to be more pedestrian friendly. The one on the left is what's currently available. You can't see over it. I don't really know where one of these signs would fit in many of our downtown commercial sites because many of the buildings are up next to the sidewalk, but just wanted to go ahead and address that. Office commercial, a little bit smaller, but not a whole lot, and you would be able to do an electronic sign. Neighborhood industrial, a little bit smaller. And the I-1 and I-2, again, we're actually a little bit larger than River Ridge, but not much. And you would be able to do an LED. Won't get into this too much, but we want to have a little bit of control over the base. We don't want to see many of the signs that you see on the right that have these really tall bases and then the very small messages. We want them to be a little bit more balanced like the one that you see on the left. So we've got
You think that's due to the fact, and I'm using the Walgreens as an example, with that being a major intersection at 10th and Spring, an automobile wouldn't be a problem, but if you take a box truck or anything like that, if they're advertising milk on sale or whatever, it's to get that up and above so it can be read versus being blocked out. I don't know, but would that be the reason for the height?
Well, I think everybody just wants the highest sign they can get. No matter what the scenario, they want the highest sign they can get. And, the goal is to try to get these to be more consistent and more visually
Shane,
pleasing.
question. I assume that the signs that are in place are grandfathered in.
That's correct.
At what point do they lose that? Like if they redo their sign?
If they want to redo it, or if it becomes damaged to a point for a certain percentage, then they would lose their grandfather status.
So a certain percentage of damage, like if their sign's 50% damage.
Yes. Well, and, there is a little bit of discretion on whether we even have to give permits to replace panels. If you guys remember, about 3 years ago at Vendors Village, they came in and wanted to replace, they had those large pylon, really outdated goalpost signs. And so, we said we didn't want to give them a permit to replace that, but we actually worked with redevelopment and got a facade grant, and they got some facade money to upgrade their sign, and then we had the street department remove those signs. So we sort of formed a partnership with them So it would be our discretion whether we want to actually give a permit for a non-conforming sign or not. I would prefer not to. Multi-tenant, we did a lot of work trying to figure out how to do this, and what we came up with, again, looking at a variety of other communities, was if it's a multi-tenant building, they get one ground sign for every 400 feet of building frontage. And this is an example of Rural King and Kroger. They actually have one large tenant sign out front here. They don't have one there, but there's about 400 feet for each building, so each one of them would be able to have a multi-tenant sign out front or their own sign, and the outlots would still be allowed to have their own sign as well. But we would still limit them at 8 feet and the 48 square foot of front for each panel. Same thing with Youngstown Shopping Center. They don't have a multi-tenant sign out currently. I actually think they should. They've got the Dollar General sign that's already damaged, and they don't have any multi-tenant signs. Under this scenario, they could actually have two 8-foot signs on different parts of the property. And then I'll end with political signs. So we looked at what was currently out there, and we decided to go with 32 square feet maximum, because we know a lot of you, that's kind of a standard, so we want to keep it there. What we want to avoid are the occasional person that gets a really large banner and puts it on the side of a semi and sticks it out in one of our major corridors. So we want to make sure that language is pretty clear. Stay at 32 square feet. Don't want it to be in the public right-of-way. We don't want them placed on semi-trailers and placed where semi-trailers aren't permitted. We don't want people to use that it's a political sign as an excuse to park a trailer out in a commercial corridor. We talked about timing, and we thought it would be appropriate for 60 days prior to elections, about 2 months, and then 10 days after, so that's 70 days total for an election, and we thought that would be reasonable. Yes.
No problem. If you look at page 4 on 7.18, letter C, A, political sign, 60 days, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for R123, M1234, and MP. But then if you turn to page 5, which is under most of your commercial districts, about midway, letter H, A, it says 90 days.
Okay, so we've got a typo. 60 days. We went back and forth with that.
Okay.
It should be 60 days.
And that came through the planning commission, they
Yes.
agreed with that?
Mhm.
Because we have, I can think of someone being overly patriotic and wanting to keep their sign out, all year long for the president. We have somebody in the city that does that, and if that arises, what do? Do you tell that person they got to take their sign down out of their front yard? And then you have another issue, it may come up in your commercial districts, if the one or both of the major political parties displays signs in their windows, can they only do that during the 60-day period? Or are we going to...
Well, we actually have existing standards for window signs, but I think if they're in windows, there's only a certain percentage that they're supposed to cover up. So they're not supposed to completely cake the inside of a building. I don't remember off the top of my head what percentage it is. But we've got that, but otherwise I don't think we would pay attention to a window sign.
But the yard sign then?
With the yard sign, we would. And I would consult with the city attorney before I would have someone have their president's sign removed.
I understand.
And I think there's a difference if someone's doing it tastefully and someone's got a ton of signs out all over the place and it's drawing a lot of attention. So we can use a little bit of discretion there.
Shane, I appreciate this. It's going to take a little while to obviously police it and implement it, but it can be done. But And a 30, on the political signs, a 32 square foot sign is a 4x8 sheet of plywood.
Mhm.
And I mean, it doesn't really matter, I don't guess, but I'm thinking 16 square foot of 4x4 would be more than adequate for anybody, but a 4x8 piece of plywood on a postage sized yard is a little overkill, but I would like to have seen that, because
Sure.
the communities around us are 16 square feet.
Well, we were aware that historically, people that were already running had 32 square feet
Well, I mean,
signs, and we didn't want to come in as the election started and then make them non-conforming and then have that issue. I would agree with you, but
16 would be adequate, but that's water over the dam.
I would be agreeable to come back after this election and tighten that up if you all want to see that.
Shane, are you comfortable that there are no political free speech constitutional issues involved with these political sign limitations?
I believe so. I believe we're fine.
Yeah, they already picked them up in Floyd County, if they're in the easement.
We're not controlling content. We're just saying you can't place them in it. It'd be like you placing your sign outside of at the doors of City Hall. It's public property. So the public right-of-way is publicly owned, and you should not be advertising in it.
And in all fairness, Shane did put out an email to all parties, informing them of our ordinance too, so I thought that.
And I already told him I've had some complaints about signs being in the easements and
Right-of-ways.
right-of-ways, yep.
What about on private property?
Pri-
You see people painting signs on barns, to advertise chewing tobacco and so forth and so on.
We've actually got that information defined in here as well, but I didn't want to overkill everybody with the definitions. We've clearly defined a mural from signage, but just quickly, if it's advertising a product, it's a sign. If it's just a design, then it's a mural. So we would not regulate a mural, but we would regulate a sign.
Corbin, I know that there's some, I know at least one church that does not change their sign. They have the acronym that you had listed earlier, EV, whatever.
EVMS?
Thank you. And they don't change their sign. That was an agreement they had with you.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming this would pass, will you notify them that they could change it according to this, or?
I could be convinced of doing that.
Okay.
I think through the process of getting them in compliance, we developed a relationship. It took a while.
I just think they need to know. They're going to be wondering why others have it and they don't. And I don't mind it.
Good point.
With that, but anyway.
Shane, on these business signs, you say 8 foot. Now, the existing businesses that got taller signs, they're grandfathered in?
Mhm.
So it won't affect them whatsoever?
Nope.
Protect your sign.
Unless
Don't ask
something
it
happens.
But moving forward, I think you're going to see not only a lot of new development, but a lot of redevelopment, a lot of outlot development along our commercial corridors. So moving forward, we're actually just improving the standards and keeping them consistent.
I know where communities I've been that have implemented this, it looks very tasteful, very, very good. And I commend you and your group, Shane.
Yeah, you and your staff did a lot of hard work in this, and I commend you also.
And let me add, thank you guys for giving me an extra staff person to allow me to do some of this stuff. It makes a big difference.
Is there any further questions for Shane before I open up the public hearing?
I do have one more question. We have on your table here.
Yep.
I'm looking at downtown commercial wall signs. It says 50 square feet. And you and I talked about this a little bit before. Does that bring an existing sign into compliance that we've talked about? Or do you know if that's still greater than 50 square feet?
I'm not sure which sign. I talk about signs so much, I'm not sure which sign we're...
Okay, never mind.
But we can, I'll be happy to look into it if you want
Right,
to get with me after.
I don't think it does, and I wasn't sure if, is the 50 square feet just a a number that was, how did we come to that number?
For the downtown commercial, that's just a standard that, with other buildings, we calculate it based on the linear foot of the building or the lot. But with the downtown, it's just a set amount.
I didn't know if there was any way to implement some sort of formula for, the building is 3 stories and 100 foot wide, so you can have it this instead of this, or, whatever.
I'd be willing to look into that and see if that's something that we didn't consider.
And we can talk about it more.
Okay.
So this time I'm going to officially open public hearing. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak for or against this sign ordinance? Please come forward and state your name and address, microphone. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to officially close public hearing.
And I make the motion to move 2015 OR 21, and we only need 1 reading to pass.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I got a motion, second, to pass 2015 OR 21. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Merkley, 2015 will be over. It's also a public hearing and ordinance changing the zoning map design on the tract of land 1101 East 10th Street.
Here, you can go that way and I'll go this way.
This property is located at 1101 East 10th Street, and the petitioner is here. He's requesting that the property be zoned from R3, which is residential, to NC, which is neighborhood commercial. This comes to you from the Planning Commission with a favorable recommendation by unanimous vote. And I believe the applicant or the petitioner is here. Come up and identify himself and state to the council your reason for the rezoning.
Good evening, I'm Mark Keeley. My wife and I own the property at 1101 East 10th Street. It's since its construction in 1926, it's always been a residential property. We had it as that, and then we moved out of the property and used it as a rental property. With the current plans for the 10th Street widening at our intersection, we lose quite a bit of frontage of the yard and quite a bit of side yard on the Howard Street side. We've made a number of attempts to rent it, but people have been concerned with the new construction and living there through that and that type of thing. And we've been thinking about what are our options with the property itself. It's a relatively small property. It's 3,280 square foot is the land size. When we take an additional 15 feet off the front, another 8 foot off the Howard Street side for the roads, it actually diminishes any yard that you may have for the possibility of a family moving in. Our current thoughts are to try to implement the structure as a small business. We're making plans and trying to proceed along that route, obviously with favorable decisions from everyone here and wherever else we have to go. This is a learning experience for us, one step at a time. But our intent is to have a small secondhand vintage type store. We will keep all the sales and business confined within the building structure itself. We do not plan to do anything in the yard. It's just the frontage of the building, and the structure is going to remain as it is now. It'll still look like part of the community that is built up around it, because I believe it was the first house there.
What kind of parking have you got there?
The only parking we have is right there on Howard Street, 2 or 3 places. I mean, we don't, as I said the other night, we don't expect to have a peddler's mall or anything like that. I mean, honestly, we still owe money on the house, and it's a way for us to generate income to help pay the mortgage on it. We have conducted some inside yard sales. Some of you all may have seen my signs up and down the road. And on our busiest days, we may have 4 or 5 people. We only conduct business on Fridays and Saturdays. We do not intend to have a week-long business plan. It's matter of fact, that's all we can handle. I still work full-time, and my wife has all she can handle. So it's just a way to help get through this. And And with the expansion of 10th Street, I mean, at some point, there's going to be some need for property that's already zoned, I would think, so.
Shane had no problem with this, and he had no problem with the parking. He said he thought that it was adequate.
Yeah, I mean, it's not been a problem. We've talked to our neighbors, as a matter of fact, before we even
I've
bring
seen
it.
your sign up before. Is that something you were doing or your tenants doing?
That's something we were doing. And obviously, we're going to have a new sign ordinance, so that one's not going to be acceptable anymore. And it wouldn't be anyway, once we, pardon me?
It's grandfathered in.
No. My wife has grander visions of her sign than that, so.
Is there any further questions for the applicant before I open up the public hearing?
No, that's my district, and I haven't had any calls or any comments about it, so.
So at this time, I'm going to open up public hearing. Is there anybody here who wish to speak for or against the property located 1101 East 10th Street? Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing none, I'm officially closing public hearing.
I'll make a motion to pass 2015 OR 22.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to pass 2015 OR 22nd. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Good luck, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you sign.
All right, we get to Nathan, Public Arts Master Plan session held March 30th.
I don't have a full report tonight, but just a week ago, we had the Public Art Master Plan, and Shane Corbin helped pull that together, him and his crew. We cleared out this room and had tables in here with quite a few boards, and it was an interactive type session. It went very well. We had between 75 and 100 people come, and it was, I thought, very well attended, and it were the people that came were individuals that don't usually come to some of our meetings, and it's new faces. It was very positive. I don't know, our planning and zoning office, they're actually doing the report, and once it's complete, we'll bring that back here just to give everybody a copy of that so you can see. That's my report.
City Council Attorney report. We don't have any council, board, or commission reports. Do we have any department heads here that wish to speak tonight? Okay. Public comment, we do have Paul Ducksworth from Worley Fields. You want to come up and state your name and address, please, for the record, sir?
Good evening, Paul Duckworth, 1724 Knoll Drive, and I'm also president of Clark County Soccer Association. I just wanted to come tonight. There's been a lot of comments going back and forth, both in the newspaper and on message boards about Worley Fields and the soccer complex. So I just wanted to give my perspective on how the soccer complex is doing and affecting the community. Just to let you know that we're just about to start our new season for the spring. Last year we had 384 attendees or registrants. This year we're up to 459. So we're growing leaps and bounds, and the 380 was about a 20% increase from the year before, based on the anticipation of going into the complex. And now that everybody's been there, everybody loves it. I mean, it's just a great facility. We have all the major soccer clubs from Louisville using the facility. So they're coming over. This not just the youth soccer, but we have the Louisville FC, which is the new professional team. They were supposed to play a game there, but the 8 inches of snow kind of put a nix on that. But we have the River City Rovers playing their semi-pro team. So it's not just the youth, but it's the adults, and they're bringing people in. We have the semi-pro football playing there. Jeff High, both the football and the soccer are using the facility. So it's really getting an awful lot of usage, not just within the kids themselves, but outside of that. But it's going great. One of the advantages of us growing our numbers is we use referees. We pay the referees. A lot of those are teenagers, so it's an income stream for them. But it also teaches them responsibility. And if everybody's refereed, it's no fun being out in the middle sometimes. So it teaches them on that. We have several tournaments. We have a new tournament coming up at the end of April, an adult 6v6 tournament. We have 3v3 live tournament, which we've had for a while. We've got the Firefighter Cup, which is a high school soccer tournament. And then we have our own soccer tournament that CCSA holds at the end of May. We have about 600-700 participants for that. That last year was the issue with the parking. We are working around that. One of the issues we had last year was this year we have 96 4 and 5-year-olds. And so we've made sure that we've scheduled those away from the tournament weekend. So that's certainly cut back from the traffic. And I know Paul Northern's working with us on opening up some of the area where the building was going to go to put additional parking there. So we think we'll be okay. But I just want to say everybody that I've talked to loves the facility. People that come in from out of town, they love it. And like I said, there's nothing like it in Louisville. It's the best place, probably within all the way down to E-Town. So I just wanted to give you my update. Thank you all very much for your support, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, council comments. Councilperson Smith.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Councilperson Ibsen.
Yeah, I've a comment. You know, when you look at, I'm talking insurance here for a second. If you go back in the city's history, we've had a poor workers' comp mod. And for probably a lot of people don't understand what that is, but workers' comp mod is a factor, business owners know what that is. It's a factor to say if you're going to pay more because you're a bad risk or if you're going to pay less, and it's based on your experience. And there was a time that the city used to pay twice the base rate. So we were paying twice the rate we should have paid. And I asked Amir to give a rundown of where we're at. And that factor is based on 3-year experience. And so in 2013, we were at 1.26, so we're paying 26% more than the base rate. And then we got down to 0.95 in 2014, and now we're paying 77% of the base rate. Wow. So now we are almost 25% less than the base rate, and that's a great improvement. And that goes, you know, that goes to the addition of having a safety director for our HR, drug, all the other little things that we've done as far as accidents, reports after accidents, drug testing, all the things, back to work programs, all those things add up over time and save the city a lot of money. So I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilperson Wadsworth. Wadsworth.
Oh, I have nothing to add.
Okay. I will get your name straight. I apologize. Councilperson Sellers.
I just want to thank Nathan. Yeah, he's looking up like what? Just for all the work that you put into the Arts Council and for getting that going through the past couple years and your team. It's just awesome to see what's going on throughout the city, and it's really due because of your leadership. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilperson Webb.
None at this time.
Councilperson.
Just one thing. Later last week, I called the mayor of Scottsburg, and I talked to him about this epidemic that they're having on the needle exchange and the HIV. And I'm going to talk to Amir this week, but one of the things that he recommended for our sanitation workers and parks workers was some immunizations that it's really a hepatitis shot. And we should make sure that all of our city employees that could be affected by this, and I planned on calling Amir today, I just didn't get an opportunity, but I will tomorrow. But I think that's something that we've kind of dodged a bullet. There's 5 counties in the state of Indiana that are kind of threatened by this, and Clark is one of them. So I really think we could take an active role and step up for our employees and if there is an ounce of prevention out there, I think we should give it to them. So.
And to add to that, we also said about including City Pride.
Right.
And I did talk with Peggy, and she gets a lot of volunteers that they usually get gloves, and so.
If I could just follow that real quick.
Yeah.
I know when we put the ordinance in place that required garbage cans to be put out, a lot of people took heat for that. So there was a reason for it, and that's part of the reason is to protect our workers. And that's why sometimes we don't pick up bags, and we're not going to, because it is dangerous for our workers, for their backs and for getting stuck by needles. So.
Well, there's the parks is evidently just as big a problem because they're discarding the needles in the parks. And there's actually a proper way for them to pick them up and dispose of them. So, you know, if there's a training session or anything, but I am going to talk to Amir and kind of expose him to that. So,
Councilperson Owen.
Just wanted to thank PAC 4043 for coming to help us with the pledge today. And they also, their presence here reminded me, they're out of New Chapel Church, which is where I go to church. And it reminded me to remind you that they are having their sausage supper on Saturday from 3 to 7. And it's, I'm a little biased, but I think they're one of the top ones around. So that's out in the Jeffersonville 6th District, so everybody should want to go by and get some sausage. It'll be good.
Councilperson Samuel.
I was contacted by Deputy Chief Sean Grant about the invoices came in for the fire truck that we had totally redone, and they total about $70,000. I totaled them today. I've looked over them, and just to make everyone aware that was came in a little bit under budget, which is unusual. But those will be on our claims probably next time. But I told him I would tell you that. He wanted me to thank everyone for allowing the repairs and doing it timely and without a bunch of hassle. Second item I have is, this is for President Gill. Do we have the code to our door back here?
Yes.
Not yet.
Right, the outside in the back where the police used to enter in, I will email that out.
Okay.
I have that. I got that from Larry Wallace. I will email that out.
Because
I meant
that's
to
the
do
door I'll
that.
be
Thank you
using.
for.
I'd like to get that. Thank you. That's all I have.
I too want to thank you, Nathan. I was thrilled to see the crowd out there for Go Jeff. And then the amount, even more came afterwards, and the back and forth, the correspondence between, it was just something very positive to focus on and to see the city move in that direction. And did everybody get their utility box locations in?
Nope.
I wanted to remind you all, you need to do that. When was the deadline you gave us? Several emails?
Passed?
Oh, it's passed. Do I get those locations then?
Possibly.
possibly.
And also
That's
want to
all right.
remind everyone that this Friday is the JNLA Trivia Night. So we need to know who's going to be at the table or not so we can fill that table. So you can either email me or message me or whatever. And the other thing I wanted to say is we got our police and we got some fire representation here. Thank you guys for all you do. Public safety is something that I ran on last go around. It's something that's very important to me and near and dear to me. You know that. I'll always be your voice. And when it was brought up, something like that was questioned, kind of took a little bit of offense by that, because you guys know, you talk to me quite often. And just so the public knows, we did hire 3 police officers. That was asked. It was in the budget. And Eric, during his budget workshop, requested 2. We may have some meetings set up to discuss maybe 3, but that'll be on down the road. We will have those meetings. But and at that time in the budget, because the circuit breakers are such an unknown, we said all new employees. We already had it budgeted in, was already talked about hiring the 3 new police, but we said we were going to wait for circuit breakers to come back before we discuss any additional firefighters and look at the financial health of the city. So, but once again, I just applaud you all. We have an outstanding police and fire department. I know the fire department assisted New Chapel in a house fire over the weekend that came right off the heels of a swiftwater rescue. And that's another thing we can't get that message out enough, to where people just will continue to drive through water. I don't know how we could stop that, but they continue to drive through the water, and they don't realize that your car can be swept away in just 2 to 3 inches of swift water going across the roadway. So that is all I have. Does anybody need to add anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.